Welcome back. Just one more episode before I let you go for the spring and possibly into the summer. And again, this is really important because we're in that New Year's spring energy. Keep in mind. So keep in mind, just because you can, that doesn't mean that you should. How many things do we take on just because we can? How many events do we go to? Things do we volunteer for? Projects that we take on? How many things do we all do just because we've always done it before and that's the way you did and that's the way it's always done or that's what you think you should be doing? Maybe it's just me. I feel like there's so many things available to us. There's so many activities, there's so many possibilities. And then I find that I kind of get myself overcommitted with all of them. And then all of a sudden it's like you just want to be rid of all of these same things that you thought were so nice and shiny, just a couple months earlier. So just like the whole new year, new you, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Maybe there are better times for certain things, or maybe there's no time for that certain thing. It's just because you can doesn't mean you should. So as we're taking in this spring energy, and again, it gets warm and then it gets cold and then it gets warm again, it gets cold. And let's just remember, this is not a time to come out and sprint. This is a marathon, the year, our lives, our decades, everything we do. So just think about what activities and events and projects are you in for like the long haul? Like what activities, events, projects are part of your larger self, the self you want to be, and the world you want to live in? What projects really call to you and call to your greater purpose and your greater why? And then what about all those things that you want to do, like just because you want to do? Maybe they're not a part of your why. Maybe you just want to go play mini golf. Like that's great. That's wonderful. Those are the things that you want to do. These are things that you want to fit into your life. But then think about what are the things that you just fit in or made sense or had to be done. What could you drop in like now or in 6 months or a year, or maybe when your term is over? Danielle Laporte calls this the stop doing list. What are things that might make it on the stop doing list? Doesn't mean you stop doing them, but what are things that maybe you don't like, you don't want to keep doing? You are like, oh my gosh, if I have to do this for another minute, year, decade, like that's it. I recently have been managing a lot and enjoying it immensely, and that's kind of surprised me how much I've been enjoying it. But I also know that now is the time to start planning on phasing out some of these things, that these are not a part of what I want to be doing next year or the year after. These are volunteer commitments that I love and nourish me deeply and definitely are part of how I want to show up in the world and create the world that I want to live in. But right now, I'm feeling called to do other things. And these other things are calling me whether I kind of want to do them or not. I'm kind of being told like it's time to end this chapter. It's time to move on to the next thing. I mentioned in last episode about giving things time and not feeling to take the need to like push or what I call extroverting too hard, and not jumping into that spring energy, but letting yourself take the time, and probably taking more time than you will want to take just to get into things or to start things or to consider starting things or even to end things. Sometimes, something might end and maybe it takes a little while longer than maybe you had hoped or planned. The things that are coming into my life right now, it's been about 6 years that I've been toying with this thing off and on, and naturally it is starting to come to life. It's a bamboo thing where like nothing happened for a while, and now all of a sudden there's this massive growth, and I'm still tending to it, and I'm not sure it's growth that I want or need, and I want to make sure it grows in my life in a way that's supportive to be myself and who I want to serve and how I want to show up in the world and how I want the world to be. So it's not out in the world. I'm not broadcasting it or, making anything about it. That's also why I'm not actually telling you what it is yet, because it's still riding in the backseat of my life. And it will probably continue to do so for the next few years, but it does need more space. It does need more time. And I have to be prepared to give it what it needs. Again, even with my dream and goal or this thing or anything that you're feeling called to do, even with the positive things, the things that we're told to go do, just because you can doesn't mean you should. I'm a different person than when I first started this thing 6 years ago. And so my desires around it have changed. And I want to make sure, as I know I'm going to be a changing human, in the next couple of years, I want to make sure that it is accurate to me now and is accurate in a way that supports me in the future. So again, with everything, good, bad, the commitments you really don't want and you're just doing because somebody asked you to, and the commitments that you really feel like this is a calling for and you're feeling that fire and you're feeling that passion. Just because you can does not mean you should. So just a reminder, everything is not good or bad. We want to pretend everything is black and white, and it's usually many, 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 many shades of gray, and it depends on which way you're looking at the picture at any given time. I quote, I cannot say her name correctly, but I quote her a lot. Angie Dovecote, I think is how you say her name. And this line always sticks with me. Noah's Ark and the Titanic are different scenes of the same plot. And that is the truth. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because it looks right and it feels right doesn't mean it is. Just because it looks wrong and bad doesn't mean it needs to end. So just a reminder to do with that what you will in this upcoming season of your life. Thank you for joining me for this short, brief season of listening to the Still Small Voice. I'm Jennifer. I'm delighted that you've chosen me to listen to during your free time, your drive to work, or while you're doing something else, because I do that all the time too. I'll be back again as the season calls. It ends up usually being around twice a year, but who knows, maybe one day I'll be more regular or not. But in the meantime, keep listening to yourself.